Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into a really powerful story from the book of 2Kings. It's all about a mother, a miraculous promise, and a tragedy so devastating it tests the very limits of what it means to have hope.
So let's really dig into that question. We're going to follow the journey of a mother who gets this miracle child only to have him tragically taken away, and who then just absolutely refuses to let death have the final word.
All right, so our story picks up several years after the prophet Elisha promised a woman from a town called Shunem that she would have a son. And, miraculously, she did. But that incredible joy is about to be put to the ultimate test.
So fast forward a bit. The promised child is now a young boy, and on what seems like a totally normal day, he heads out to join his father in the fields during the harvest.
You gotta picture this scene. It's harvest time, so everything is about life, growth, and abundance. And that's what makes what happens next feel so shocking and completely out of place. Right there in the field, the boy suddenly cries out in agony, "My head! My head!" Now, this repeated cry tells us it was something sudden and severe, maybe a heat stroke or even a brain aneurysm. His father immediately sends him back to his mother. So the boy is on his mother's lap, the safest place in the world for him. But by noon, the unthinkable happens. The text is so blunt, so direct, and then he died. Just like that. Death shows up without any warning, and it looks like that divine promise he represented has just been shattered. But here's where the story takes a turn you just wouldn't expect. Instead of panicking or running out screaming, this mother performs a series of incredibly calm, deliberate, faith-filled actions. She carries her son upstairs, lays him on the very bed she'd made for the prophet Elisha, and then she shuts the door and leaves, containing the crisis. And what she does next isn't about grieving, not yet. It's a quiet but incredibly urgent journey. She sets out to find the man who was the source of the original promise, the prophet himself. Now, her husband, understandably, is confused. He's like, "Why are you going to him now? It's not a special holy day or anything." But her response is just a masterclass in faith. She simply says, "It shall be well." And this isn't her being in denial. It's this incredibly disciplined refusal to speak death over the situation before she has sought help from God. And you can just feel her focus, right? She tells her servant to ride as fast as possible and not to slow down for anything. Her journey is this mix of controlled urgency and a desperate, determined pursuit of a miracle. And get this, her destination is not random at all. She's heading to Mount Carmel, a place that was already famous as a symbol of God's power over forces of death. I mean, this was the exact spot where Elisha's mentor, Elijah, had that epic showdown with the prophets of Baal. She is going straight to a place of proven divine power. So when she finally gets there, she totally bypasses Elisha's servant. She's saving her raw, unspoken plea for the prophet himself. Elisha actually sees her coming from a distance and sends his servant Gehazi to meet her. He asks if everything is okay with her, her husband, and her child, and for the second time, she insists, it is well. She just knows deep down that this situation requires a direct appeal, not a message passed through a middleman. And then finally, she reaches Elisha, and all that grief she's been holding in just pours out as she falls at his feet. She reminds him, "Did I ask for a son? Didn't I tell you, do not deceive me?" This isn't just her blaming him. It's this powerful appeal, basically holding God accountable to the promise that he was the one who initiated. Okay, so this is where it all comes to a head, the ultimate confrontation between life and death. Now, Elisha first tries to solve this from a distance, but this mother's faith, it demands a whole lot more than that. So at first, Elisha sends Gehazi on ahead with his staff, a symbol of his authority, and tells him to lay it on the child's face. But the mother? No way. She refuses this plan, vowing, "I will not leave you." She knows somehow that the prophet's actual presence is absolutely essential. And guess what? She was absolutely right. Gehazi comes back with the bad news. The staff didn't work. The text says there was neither voice nor hearing. This is a huge moment, proving that God's power isn't some magical force you can just wield through objects. It's not that simple. So now Elisha has to go himself. When he gets to the house, he goes into the room alone with the dead child and he shuts the door. This isn't a show for a crowd. The real work, the miracle, begins in private, just between the prophet and God.
And what Elisha does next is, well, it's just incredible. It's this intense physical act of intercession. He lies down on top of the child's body, his mouth to the boy's mouth, his eyes to his eyes, his hands to his hands. It's like life is literally confronting death. And then the child's body starts to get warm. Elisha gets up, paces around the room, and then stretches himself out over the boy a second time.
And then comes the sign that it's all working. The child sneezes 7 times. Now, in the Bible, the number 7 is huge. It symbolizes divine completion, perfection, wholeness. And after that 7th sneeze, the boy opens his eyes. Life has come back. The miracle itself is amazing, right? But the real heart of the story, the emotional climax, is this beautiful moment of restoration when the child is given back to his mother. Elisha calls for the woman, and with 3 simple, incredibly profound words, he just says, "Take up your son." The promise is not broken, it's restored. And how does she respond? Not with a big speech, not with words at all, with worship. She just falls at Elisha's feet in gratitude. Her whole journey, which started in this quiet determination and then exploded in raw grief, it now ends in silent, grateful worship as she takes her son in her arms and leaves. It's just an amazing thought, isn't it? By making room for a messenger of God in her home, this mother ultimately made room for God himself to overcome death. So what does this story really tell us about faith when we're staring down the impossible? Well, it shows us that faith isn't just passive waiting. It is active, it's persistent, it's courageous trust that demands God's presence, even when a promise seems like it's been lost forever.